Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Caroline Colas, and I am the Senior Director of Health and Wellness at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. This afternoon on our Lunch and Learn series, a series with the Whole Being Institute, we're going to be talking about keeping your immune system strong with Linda Jackson. It really is time to talk about the importance of health and keeping our immune system strong. Wellness coach, herbalist, and acupuncturist Linda Jackson uses the SPIRE model, spiritual, physical, intellectual, relational, and emotional, as a template for whole being health, helping people identify what they need to enhance their immune systems. Linda will teach us how using herbs, supplements, as well as spending out time in the outdoors, mindfulness, and or meditation, creativity, and a support team of family, friends, healthcare practitioners, therapists, etc., can help us stay healthy. At a time when we face such chaos in the world, it is more important than ever to keep our immune systems as strong as they can be. And a little bit about Linda. She's an acupuncturist, as you heard, herbalist, and wellness coach in private practice in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. She holds master's degrees in both education and Oriental medicine, as well as a certification in positive psychology and life coaching. She works with individuals and groups to design pathways to health and general well-being. She is a founding member of Kripalu, and she is influenced in her work by mindfulness, meditation, and yoga practices. Welcome to the call, Linda. It's so nice to be with you. I'm just going to mute Carrie. I don't know. Okay, there we go. Where are you calling from? Are you calling from Massachusetts?
I am. I'm in my clinic. And so I came to my clinic to do this call because my dog at home would be barking his all things. So,
So you understand why I went upstairs.
yes, I smiled for that reason.
Yeah. Now let's just talk about dogs for a minute. You have one or two?
Right now, I have one.
Yeah.
She's a rescue. And for anybody interested, I'm the author of a book on doing massage, canine massage.
Oh, wow. I am so glad I asked that question. I didn't know that. I don't think I've met anybody who's authored a book on canine massage. So if we have time, we'll have to talk more about that. So how did you, I mean, you were a founding member of Kripalu.
Mhm.
Wow. For people that don't know, can you just say a little bit about what Kripalu is and
Well, Kapalo now is, one of the largest centers for yoga and health in, I would say, probably the world. Um, and back in the 70s, we were just a bunch of hippies wanting to do yoga, meditation, save the world or leave the world, who knows. And then and everybody, we did a lot of yoga, we did a lot of meditation. And then we decided that it needed to be a self sustaining community. And hence what we started doing programs. And we started first with just weekend programs, and it grew from there. And now their programs going all year long. Right now, they are currently closed. Their commitment has been that with the COVID, they were going to be the first to close and the last to open. So,
wow. So that's such an interesting time, right? That we're in where things are opened, closed, half opened, closing because some, it's this, it reminds me of shifting, slow dancing through chaos a little bit. You know, like
exactly.
things are shifting. Wouldn't you
It
say?
feels like every day. Can I just start yapping away?
Yeah, go ahead.
um, Clearly we're in a time of huge change. And as I look at it, I mean, it's not just COVID, it's everything right now. It feels like the image I have every now and then is it feels like someone's throwing all the pickup sticks up in the air and they haven't yet landed. But every time we get a few that land, we think, oh, that's normal. Okay, I can do that. And then a few more land. And so it feels like every day we're in this kind of cascading chaos, really. And so we're not yet. Every day we're needing to find a new normal. And if you're confused, if you're not feeling well, if you're fatigued. That's all very normal right now. And my focus has been from the get-go, focusing on the immune system. I was really fortunate when I first went into acupuncture. I lived out in Portland, Oregon, and worked in a clinic there where all we worked on was autoimmune disorders. And it's become just a love of mine. And as I talk today, what you're going to see is that I speak through kind of two lenses. One is Oriental medicine. And to me, there's a brilliance to that approach to healthcare because it's truly about healthcare. And a little trivia is that in ancient China, your acupuncturist, your doctors only got paid as long as their clients were healthy. If someone got sick, you didn't get paid. But what you did do is work towards getting them healthy so that they stay healthy, you get paid. Somehow, I can't imagine our medical system ever going that direction, but it made sense to me. And so, my approach is really to look at the health and how can we become more healthy, or not even more healthy, but more in balance, because our bodies really want to be healthy. And so that's one lens. And the other is the Spire model, which I know that some of you are familiar with. Phoebe, that could go up if you have it there.
Okay.
The Spire model, which some of you are familiar with, it's a whole being approach. And it's ever since doing the SIP program, the Whole Being Institute, that Spire model is a guide for me, and it's a guide for how I work with people. And you'll see it's taking each letter of the word. S is for spiritual, P is for physical, I is for intellectual, R is relational, and E is emotional. And I feel like if we can look at ourselves on this through this lens, then we know where we need to work. What I'm going to present to you today is kind of a whole smorgasbord or buffet of things that you can do to support your immune system and your well-being within this model of Spire. So as I go, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the bottom. We'll try and get to them. And hopefully we'll have some time toward the end where I'll open it up to questions, because that's how I like to teach. And go ahead.
Linda, when you were talking about the body wanting balance, the body is designed to find homeostasis, isn't it?
Yes.
Like as the baseline.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really comforting for us to know, is that at all times our human body is really working for us. It's working to find balance. And so when we start from that foundational principle, it's a whole other way of looking at health, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, my belief is that our bodies want to heal and our bodies want to be in balance. And we're very good at doing all kinds of things in our life to take us out of balance and to test it. Now, it doesn't mean that if we're in balance that we won't get, a disease or a cold or COVID or whatever. It just means that let's go into it being as healthy as we can be. And that's what I'm going to share with you today, because as soon as I heard about COVID, now, just a bit of background, and my dad died just before Christmas. And
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. In February, my sisters and I flew out to Oregon, and my parents' only wish was that we deliver their ashes to the ocean. So we went out there, and as we were getting ready, this whole COVID-19 came into the news, and we were all like, well, should we do this? Should we not do it? And it was early enough, we decided, sure, let's do it. And I made my signature, what I call my signature tea for the immune system, took it out with me, and we were all fine. We went, we came back, and then, and I've also been exposed to it numerous times. I have many clients who've been it, including my daughter and husband and grandchildren all had it. So it's real close to my heart. But the important thing is that we can do every day things that will nurture and support our immune systems. And I know one question here is, what about if you already have an autoimmune disorder? It is true that there are certain things that if you have an autoimmune disorder, you want to be careful with taking some herbs, but not all herbs. Like what I'm going to suggest is a tea has herbs in it that even with an autoimmune disorder, you can drink that tea, and it will boost you. And what I do too is I look at like I'm going to talk about supplements that we can take, how to think about food, how to give ourselves permission to be human, and we're going to fall off, and also different practices that we can do that naturally in doing them support our immune system.
Beautiful. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it.
And people have already asking, will we get your tea recipe? So that's one of they want to know if they...
Yeah, we can start with that because that's where I started, was like, okay, what can I take along? And the tea literally is astragalus root, ginger root, turmeric root, elderberries, all those in equal parts. And I usually make about a gallon at a time. So I put it in a big pot of boiling water, and because they're all roots, except for the elderberries, it can boil for a while. And it turns this lovely purple, pink color. It almost looks like a bottle of wine.
Can you repeat that?
Sure.
Sure. And you know what, Linda, you can send it to me and I will
Yes.
I will send it out with the recording.
Yeah. It literally is equal parts astragalus root, ginger root, turmeric root, and elderberries. And all of it, if you're at home, all of it can be ordered online, I believe. And it's great tea. And make a bunch of it, drink it half a cup to a cup a day. And the beauty of it is that astragalus is one of those herbs that fits in a category known as an adaptogen. And this is where, for any of you who have autoimmune disorders, an adaptogen is really, it's an herb that goes in and helps our immune system do what it needs to do. And, again, it's trusting that our immune systems know what to do. So that was my first thing, was the tea. And then, I came back from Oregon and we also went into shutdown. And for whatever reason, acupuncture was not considered essential. And what they do know, which I will just mention here because I just read it the other day, what we do know is acupuncture, if you have access to it, helps to lower our risk for the cytokine storm. So if we get sick, it's that cytokine storm that becomes, puts us more in danger. And I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's like an over anti-inflammation response to, a pathogen. And so acupuncture can lower that cytokine response so that we can actually feel better. And some other things, if I can, I'm just going to see. What we're doing in helping our immune system is really, we're supporting our Wei Qi, W-E-I, or our defensive Qi. And in Oriental medicine, that's our kind of our outer protection against pathogens. So the stronger we can keep that, the better we are against any kind of pathogen. And my interest right now is to really kick some of this up in high gear, because the days are getting shorter, it's getting darker, it's getting colder, and we're headed into that natural cold and flu season. And from a Chinese medicine standpoint, how I look at it is we're into the season of the lungs. And so whatever we can do to support our lungs is really important. And that can be exercise, breathing fresh air. This tea, astragalus root, specifically supports the lungs. And, that this is the season for it. So my concern is that if we start to see some of these the COVID return, what can we do to stay strong? Make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And also, isn't there a lung point too that we can press on? Isn't there?
Oh,
I,
yeah. Great lung point is take down like this, and you just cross it over your chest. Can you see? There, you just bring your arm over and press it right there. And you can do the same thing on the other side. And it's just like, if, okay, I'm going to hitchhike right here. And for some people, it's tender. But that's a nice point to, you can press on that and it will help to support the lungs. That's probably the most important one of the most important ones I will do acupuncture on if someone comes into me and they have a cold.
and we had a few questions in the chat. Any place that we can order this online that you would recommend, and available at Whole Foods, and should it be organic?
I like to use organic just because we know how things have been sprayed. I'm pretty sure that, I mean, if you're an Amazon shopper or Whole Foods, you can get all of these online.
And then another final question about the tea. Like a teaspoon of each, or for 1 cup of hot water, or how much do you put in there?
Oh, I put a whole handful in. So if I'm going to cook a pot, say I'm going to cook a gallon, now I use astragalus as the root, and I'll put 6 or 7 pieces of the root in the water. And then equal amount of ginger and turmeric. None of them, you can't do too much of them. Okay, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Play
And
around.
I love that you cook the way I do. Just throw things in there, right? And then what we're talking about is, of course, with that response that you were mentioning, what did you call it?
Cytokine.
Yes, is that we want to fortify the immune system, but not necessarily boost it. Is that correct?
Exactly. And so other ways, if we can, keep moving on, I mean, other ways that we can boost our immune system is, by the supplements we take. And I'll start with the stuff that we can ingest first. Supplements, my favorites, I have vitamin C, vitamin D3, omega-3, which is a fish oil. I like Nordic Naturals, collagen, zinc, and elderberries. Those are my favorites. And what I'm going to say too is, you don't need to go out and buy all these. I made a list so that you can pick and choose. I know for me, if I had to do just one thing forever, I probably wouldn't. And if I had to do too many, I wouldn't. So as we go through this list, and you're going to get this list. I made it up for you as a handout. So, feel free to take notes, but you are going to get this handout as well. With food, my rule of thumb is healthy, whole foods, and nurturing foods. And years ago, I met Michio Kushi, of the Kushi Institute, a macrobiotic guru. And one of the things that he said, which I thought was brilliant, and it really kind of lets us off the hook, it's not what I'm eating right now that matters, it's what I eat every day that counts. So if you might just go by the refrigerator. I certainly spent a lot of time at my refrigerator when we were shut down. And, right now I'd like to have a cookie. That's fine, as long as what you're eating every day is balanced whole foods. So I think nurturing right now is really important, and we can pick and choose. What are those foods that are nurturing? I know for me, if I really want to get a good night's sleep, I make myself a big bowl of mashed potatoes, and off I'll go and sleep for the night. But really, nurturing foods, giving yourself enough space, giving yourself wide berth. One thing that I learned through Tal in the Whole Being Institute was the whole concept of giving ourselves permission to be human. We're not perfect. I don't think we're meant to be perfect, but we can accept ourselves for who we are right now in this moment. Which also then, it's interesting because then I wanted to say something about the concept of happiness, because even though we're going to get to some happy practices, I feel like right now, and if you were on the phone with Barbara Fredrickson, her talk, that interview, then you're aware of this. It's like happiness right now it's relative. It's got to be relative to the situation. So, to go out and just, paste on a smile and everything's fine and groovy, that's just not true every day. So give yourself permission to be human, and also realize that being happy is relative. Although I'm going to give you some suggest practices that I've done that I feel like just keep that pendulum coming back into balance. Let's see. So that's the stuff we ingest. I'm a real fan of, to add into this, I'm a fan of essential oils. A little piece of trivia with essential oils is that back in Europe during the plague, it was the perfumers and the thieves who were not affected. They didn't get it. And what they learned was the perfumers didn't, because of the essential oils. They were in and around all the time. And if any of you know of the formula Thieves, it's a collection of essential oils. The reason it's called Thieves is because they would go and, ransack perfumers and their oils, and so they didn't get sick. So I feel like having some essential oils around just helps us feel good. I like the Thieves formula. I also use the company Floracopia, and he calls the formula Legends, not Thieves. So if you're writing that down, know that you can get either one, and it's pretty much the same. I'm just reading the chat. If you're if you're allergic to lavender, then don't use it. Or whatever. A lot of people can be allergic to some essential oils if they're allergic to that family of plants. So there are others that you can use, and it's an experiment. I like lavender, rosemary, and citrus. I particularly like citrus oils because they lighten the air. I'm a fan of putting a drop of essential oils in a burning candle and just let that fill the air. So for me, that's a really important piece of keeping my immune system strong. As soon as this whole, I shouldn't even say just COVID, because I think we were in this chaotic period before that. And I'd splash it on when I left the house. And oftentimes even having it here at work, I just put it on people's feet just to have that extra protection.
Linda, can you explain a little bit more in depth for those that might be not that familiar with essential oils, what happens with our olfactory systems, like that it can change our state? It's like the nose, and it's right in the cranium, it's right in the brain, and it really can influence our state, our mood, for lack of a better word, our chemistry.
Well, what we know is our sense of smell is our most primal sense, and it goes directly to into our chemistry just by breathing it. Now, there are people who say they ingest essential oils. I don't really do that. I think just putting them on and being able to smell them. The way I compare it to is we all have smells, scents from childhood that we can say are our favorite or not. And that what happens is that my favorite scent from childhood is lilacs. And wouldn't you know, it's the one flower, it's one of the ones they cannot make an essential oil from. Who knew? I know. So, But lilacs just take me back to my childhood and the sense of freedom and playing in the yard. So that's part of how it affects us. And in the middle of winter, Christmas, to peel an orange, it's just such a delightful. It's a delightful scent. Before I even eat the orange, I'm already feeling that sunshine that has made it that way. Does that make sense for you?
Yes, and it's so interesting that COVID, we lose one of the symptoms is losing smell and
Mhm.
taste, right?
Yes. Well, and we don't have, if we lose our sense of smell, we can't taste because they're connected. Um, I have a funny story about that. I live in an apartment and my neighbor upstairs is a smoker. And he goes downstairs and outside. Now, granted, he smokes outside. He goes downstairs and outside every 45 minutes to an hour, all the time, smoking his cigarettes. And during COVID, he decided to use the front entrance so I could use the back entrance so that we didn't have to deal with the masks so much. And when I read about the sense of smell, and I went out and I took my dog out, and all of a sudden it's like I could smell his cigarette. And I think it was the first time in my life where I went, oh my God, I don't have it. I can smell. And I went around, I mean, I was just delighted. Oh, John, just keep smoking. I can smell it.
That's hilarious.
I know.
Right, because we both know that smoking is just like if anybody is smoking on the call, please stop
Oh
because
my God.
it is like one of the worst things that you can
Worst
do.
things that you can do. But that moment was like, oh, I can smell it. I don't have COVID. Perfect. Um, So anyway, but essential oils, because they affect our most primal sense, they go more directly into and can be used in the body.
Now, can we use them to get out of fight or flight? I know that when they use smelling salts when somebody faints. And I'm just wondering that sometimes when we're in our, systemic or our nervous system where we're like, I'm wondering if an essential oil might be able to help soothe and soften and get us into that parasympathetic system.
Well, that's an interesting question. I'd have to look that up, but I'm sure that it would, because that's what lavender does. I know when my daughter was young, and she does it now with my grandkids, I used to soak a cotton ball with a few drops of lavender and put it between in their pillowcase.
Nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So yes, would be the answer to that. I don't know about a smell that would revive you if you passed out, but that's what smelling salts are for. Right. So moving right along, I'd love to talk about some physical practices because some things that we can actually do. Now, I'm a fan of yoga. I also do some qigong. I always ask people, go inside. What kind of movement speaks to you? And one of the things that I do every day now makes me sad because it may stop soon with the weather is I like to go outside first thing in the morning and walk barefoot on the grass and just let my feet just drink in the morning dew. Now that's changing because it's going to get cold, but it's also really brings me right down into grounds me to walk barefoot. I have found that when I walk barefoot in the house, it also works. Another practice that I recommend is especially before you go to bed at night, massage your own feet if you can. Just get some really nice, you can put your favorite essential oil and even a drop of coconut oil and rub it together and rub your own feet. You'll be amazed at how well you sleep. And the reason for that is that the feet, you're affecting your entire body, and it's also bringing you down to ground you so that sleep can happen more easily. The other thing that I like too is I am, because I do a lot of forest bathing with groups, with individuals. I feel like being in nature is also really important. And although I have, through the course of my life, have been an avid runner and hiker, my favorite is to literally go into the woods and walk as slowly as I can. Breathe in, look around, orient to nature. Um, Whoops, I'm sorry, that was a text that came through. Um, but I enjoy walking out in nature because of what it does to my well-being. And what I also found is that if some of you live in the city, so there may not be a lot of nature to be around. And if you're, deciding to stay at home in the house, that also is a challenge. However, what I've learned is that you can bring nature to you. And the way you can do that is on YouTube. You can actually type in YouTube nature videos. And I did this over the weekend. I was visiting with my grandkids. My grandson, who's 5, came and sat next to me, and we're looking at this one video of walking through the woods. And I could feel him practically sliding off my arm as he relaxed. And for a 5-year-old, and I went, oh, well, we should all do this because we can bring nature inside. I'm a photographer. It's one of the things I like to do in my off time. And I have made slideshows of nature photographs. And so it will do the same thing. Is it as good as being outdoors in nature? Honestly, it felt like it was really close to the same thing, especially when I felt my grandson literally relax, and for a 5-year-old is amazing. So as much as you can, either bring nature in or go out and be in nature, even if it means just walking outside and putting your hand on a tree.
Can we talk a little bit about forest bathing? For some people, that might be a new term. I know it's also talked about as grounding in some circles. So what is forest bathing? And also, do you have a card deck that you use
I
for
do.
this? Okay. If you could tell us about that.
Yeah, I love forest bathing is a concept that was begun in Japan. And Japan, as we know, is really very packed with people and with not a lot of nature. And what they started to realize is that when people go into nature and experience the smells, the scent, the air, the grass, the trees, that they actually came out healthier. That their studies would be, they did saliva tests, they did do blood pressure, they do also questionnaires, and then they send people out in nature anywhere. It can be as little as 20 minutes, but they recommend anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 hours that people would go out, they'd be in nature, and then when they came back, they would do another saliva test, they would take their blood pressure, and what they found is that they were healthier. They actually were healthier when they came back. And yes, I did develop a deck of cards, which is for myself initially, and because I was kind of housebound last summer with a procedure that I had to have on my own hips. So for me, it was like, how do I bring nature to me? And I developed this deck of cards, and each card is a photograph. It also is a word, and then it's also a suggestion of a way to be in nature. And like one of my favorites that I'll start with when I'm working with someone or with a group is I'll have them, we'll be outside, and we'll do a brief meditation, a centering, and then I'll have them for the next 5 minutes notice what you notice that you wouldn't if you were just walking from A to B. Does that make sense? So it's slow down enough to see what can you notice now that you wouldn't if you were going even that much faster. And it's actually quite amazing what can happen because we get to focus our minds. We're stepping outside of our box, and it's pretty amazing what people come back with, including a group of Boy Scouts that I took out into the woods. And one card was even one. I remember one with the Boy Scouts when we were outside, and we all come back as a group, and we'll share when we're finished doing about 15-20 minutes. And the one kid came back, and he's sitting there, and he goes, "Well, I ate dirt." And everybody looked at him and went, "What?" Well, that was his, on the card, it said, "Taste something here in nature." So he tasted the dirt. And it was great. It was a great experience, and to see even them slow down. So forest bathing, it's becoming something that's practiced. No, we don't take off our clothes and go bathing, but we go out and we experience nature in a slow and mindful, meditative way. And mindfulness is another practice that's really key in keeping our immune system strong. Because not only can we focus our attention outside of us, for example, let's all sit, if you could just sit and close your eyes. I'm going to take you through an exercise of mindfulness. And as you sit, just for a minute, just kind of wiggle your shoulders, relax a little bit. Good. Take a nice breath in and out. And what we're going to do right now is just let your inner eyes scan your body from your head all the way down to your toes. And as you're scanning, go even slower. Good. And what are 3 things that you notice inside of you right now? It might be noticing your breath. You might even notice that there's a part of your body that's not quite as relaxed as every place else. You might notice that there's a part of you that's saying, "Oh, stretch me," or "I'm hungry, it's lunchtime." And then come back, take a nice deep breath again, return to being where you are, right here, and just look around as you open your eyes, just look around. Really quickly look to the right, just slowly go around. And again, the same question. What are 3 things that you notice? And it could be anything. It could be a dust bunny. Good. How was that for you?
So nice. At the JCC, we talk about making the ordinary extraordinary. And it occurred to me that if you're taking your walk in nature in Central Park or wherever you happen to be, and you slow down, that's a way of making the ordinary extraordinary, isn't it? And then just doing what we just did is a way of doing that as well.
Mindfulness is such a key practice, especially when we're in the middle of all of this chaos. And I don't know about you, but I just feel like every day, by the time I go to bed, it's been just a whiplash tour through God knows what. And that practice of mindfulness just allows me to slow down. And we need that right now. We need those moments where we can slow down. That fits in the Spire model under not just the physical, but under the spiritual. Like, come back here and know that right here in this moment, I'm okay.
I was
We're on
also
time.
thinking of Fred Rogers and how
Mm,
his programs with kids, and one of the things that he talked about was slowing down and
mm.
even being quiet and making space for the for silence. And I feel like that's what you're saying in essence.
And one of the ways that we can do that silence, which is another real important key in my mind for the immune system, is to just practice taking 3 deep breaths. Okay. At any point in the day, we can do that. We can just, I mean, I'll use it when I'm driving. Just take 3 deep breaths and then move on. Like those 3 deep breaths allow us to just come right back into calm, and that's a great exercise to do to relax that fight or flight response, which I think we're in that constant state of fight or flight right now, unfortunately. But that practice of just taking 3 deep breaths is really important. Um, and with this chaos, we get to take 3 deep breaths every minute. So, let's do that. So, looking at my list here, mindfulness, what we just did there with the mindfulness is also a brief meditation. Um, Meditation for me is something I do every day, beginning and end of the day. Um, it's really important to come into that still place, because it's from that still place that we're going to know what's best for us to do right now. And moving on, then other practices. Oh, I have 2 groups here. Positivity, or what I wrote here, positively happy practices. Um, One, a journal. Writing in a journal is really, if you are prone to write, it's a great practice. And I also am a writer, and I have a number of different journals. My one that I've been filling up in record time is what I call my bitch journals, my bitch pages. And so I'll often start with that one and just go blah, 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 dump it all out, and then I can go on to something else. Oh, I can tell that was a good one.
I love that. It cracked me up. But
Yeah.
it's so true, because why hold it in your head? Why not get it out on paper? And then it's not, it's what mindfulness does, right? There's some objectivity. So
Right.
if I have it outside of me, and then I can look at it and I can say, wait a second, this came from me, but it's not necessarily what I identify with at this moment. I can choose.
And all of a sudden, the artist's way. Julia Cameron, she talks about um, her morning pages, which I've done for many years. And what I have learned with writing, if I'm writing on a topic, those committing to writing 3 pages, I'll stay there and go deeper and deeper and deeper. I'm also part of a writing group that I really enjoy. And I'm actually now teaching my grandkids are homeschooled, and they've been homeschooled before this. And one of the things that I'm doing with my 10-year-old granddaughter is teaching her how to do just that, use a journal. And I've given her lists. We do lists of prompts. We do it every day together in the afternoon. For 15 minutes, we write. And, I started out with just 20 days. And then my daughter called and she said, Ma, you need to keep going because Sophie's loving this. So now we've just made it our practice. Every day in the afternoon around 3:30, we get on FaceTime and we write to the same prompt. And it's teaching her how to, whether it's, the bitch pages or whether it's something more creative, writing in a journal helps all of us. And I know for her, it's literally teaching her how to do that and how to use a journal as a personal process tool. And whenever I always write first thing in the morning to clear my head. And I'm convinced that I start my days off much better than if I didn't do it. Another practice that I think we should, two practices that I think we should all be doing, and science has proven that they actually have a dramatic effect on our well-being. And the first one is gratitude. And gratitude, what I like to do is every night before I go to bed, that's how I unwind. I start my meditation with, what am I grateful for today? And it can be, gratitude is one of those where it can be just the smallest thing. It can be the biggest thing. With gratitude, a practice that I started actually when I was studying positive psychology is writing gratitude letters. And that right now, that fits under the SPIRE model, the relational, because if we're socially distancing, I don't know about you, but I miss hugs. You know, and I miss the social aspect of being with other people. And writing a gratitude letter is a great way to support, to reach out to other people in a way that, you know, is really getting down to the real heart connection. And once they get that gratitude letter, after they get over, are you okay? Are you sick? Is there something I should know? Because that's usually what people think. If you're writing this kind of a letter, there must be something seriously wrong. So what I've done is I make it a practice once a month, at least, I write a gratitude letter to someone that I know and get really detailed. Not just I'm grateful for you in my life, but I'm grateful that you make me smile, whatever. And so the gratitude letters are a practice that have helped me stay connected with people, whether it's family, friends, and even some acquaintances. The other thing that I feel like is a practice that is disappearing way too quickly is kindness. You know, that those moments and small moments. How many of you noticed that kindness seems to be diminishing when you're out and about? And to me, kindness is one of those things, it's like throwing a stone in water and it ripples out. And have you ever noticed, actually, this is kind of a fun thing, kindness, when we're driving, if we let someone pull in front of us, like consciously, oh, come on, wave them forward. What happens is that if you're right behind them after they pull in front of you, it's only 2 or 3, car lengths ahead, they'll do the same thing for someone else. And so what happens is that kindness has that way of rippling out, that when we do something kind for someone else, they're going to do it for someone else. They're even going to do it back with you. So I'm a fan of kindness, and I think that it's good for us to do that as well as for others. Let's see. Increase happy chemicals. And after we get through this, I want to have your questions if we can. Happy chemicals, oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin. I know there's another one. It'll come to me. Happy chemicals they're naturally inside of us. And it's just about doing what we can do to elicit get those chemicals flowing, helps our own immune system, helps our own health. And so that the happy chemicals, I did a whole thing on eye contact, a talk at a positive psychology at Kripalu. I did a talk on eye contact, and it was great because I did this whole photography experience of getting people to make eye contact. And I've even done it with people with their dogs, and it works. That when we sit down, when you sit down and make eye contact with another human being, you don't need to say anything, just sit and hold eye contact. What happens is that we release oxytocin. And that just, oxytocin is the love hormone. And so what we get to feel is not just love for this person, but love for ourselves. And I've actually done this in a group with people and their dogs. And it was a room full of 50 dogs and people. And it was kind of an amazing thing to see that all of a sudden here was this love fest going on in the room, and we never said a word, just held eye contact. So ways that we can do it at home are, we can laugh. This is a time to watch those movies that make you laugh, and a real deep belly laugh. We're graced right now, if you're on social media, with a lot of memes that just elicit laughter. And another thing to do is dance. Tal used to talk about creating, which I have done, is to create a happiness booster. And I have one on my iPod, 3 songs. And when I need to get a little lift me up in the middle of the day or any time of the day, I'll put that on and off I go. I feel great at the end, and it's only 3 songs, 4 minutes, and it shifts my energy. The other thing, and this is a really small one that comes out of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is that if you want to lift your energy, look up. And what that does is it lifts us away from the computer screen, away from whatever we're doing here. We look up. And it's fun to do if you're walking down the street, if you're feeling kind of, just look up. And next thing you know, you're going to have quite a few people around you also looking up. Because they're going to want to know what you're looking at. But what you're doing is you're getting everybody to feel better because you're getting them to look up. And I did that with kids, small kids. I was a preschool teacher in my first career. And get the kids to all look up. Next thing you know, they're getting along again. So a real small, easy practice takes all of a couple seconds. So that's kind of it, folks. I don't want to do any gloom and doom chats about COVID or anything like that. I do think it's coming back around, so let's be prepared. And I'm really open to taking questions if you have them.
Yeah, we have a few in the chat.
70? Really?
Yeah. One is, and I think I really want to I just want to find it in the chat. There was a comment about not to wear essential oils too heavily out in public because there are people that are allergic and they can cause reactions. And so that is true. And we just have to, let's see, those of us who are allergic, when people come into public stores, theaters, and they affect those who are allergic, they will get asthma attacks from those scents. So there's a way to wear them, isn't there? Or to smell them?
Yes, you can just take the bottle. What I like to do is I'll just put a drop right here. We don't need much. We don't even need to necessarily really smell it for long for it to have a continued effect. So I will often just put a drop right here. So I'm working, I know it's there. The other thing that my experience is that if for those who become allergic, who are allergic to different smells, generally it's because the essential oil isn't pure. Often if it's a real pure essential oil, we don't generally have the allergic reaction, except I know that lavender and eucalyptus tend to be 2 oils that if people are going to be allergic to that, they'll be the ones.
Great. Ellen asked if you have any other ideas for sleeping.
Besides mashed potatoes?
Mashed potatoes and rubbing your feet with the essential oil.
Boy, I like to use CBD oil, actually, and I recommend that with a lot of my my clients too. A CBD oil will help. Meditation will help. Turning off all technology. And in my apartment, I have I did this years ago, is everything is hooked up to one of those long, what are they called? You know, the long things where you plug 6 things in. And what I do is I walk
Power
around,
strip?
power strip, that's it. I walk along and turn off all my power strips before I go to bed. Because I think that part of why we stay awake is because we've got all this like this all the time.
And then what do you do? I love, Lois, I love your question. What do you do with all those journals that you accumulate over time? All those bitch journals specifically.
Honestly, I burn them. If I get a box, I have boxes. I have a storage unit that has lots of journals, but yeah, no, I burn them. It's a great ritual. Find some place where you can go out, get a nice campfire going, and in they go.
And I wanted to, a lot of people are saying because they're sitting so much in front of Zoom and stuff, that they notice that their feet get cold or different parts of their body get cold. So can you talk about circulation at all or what to do about that?
Well, what happens physically, what's happening when we sit at the computer or we're reading a book all of our energy is up here. And so there's not a lot going down to our extremities, because I know if I'm studying or I'm on for too long, my feet will get cold. Now, I don't tend to have cold feet, except when I'm really focused up here. So what I've learned to do is if I'm sitting here, now you don't get to see it, and it makes me crazy if I'm sitting next to someone who's doing this, but tap your feet. Every now and then just tap your feet, get up, walk around the table heavily, because you're getting then energy down to your feet. But yes, it's very common to get cold extremities if you're spending too much time up here.
And then query for the lung release point, how high up to press over the center of the breast or closer to the armpit?
Well, if you have your elbow right next to your body and you put your thumb up, let's see if I can do it. You're just going to literally go across wherever it lands. So you're not lifting your arm up like this, keeping your arm close to your body, and just go across that, wherever that point is generally where the lung point is. And the beauty is you're right over the lung, so you can't go wrong.
Well, thank you so much. I think this has been an amazing presentation, and I'm so grateful. When you do your Spire check-in, do you actually go through in the morning and say, okay, where am I spiritually, physically, intellectually, relationally, emotionally?
Yeah, what I'll often do is just look at it and go, okay, so I more look at it from what feels needed today. So an example, this is actually a funny one. During the shutdown, I kept coming up to, well, I'm not doing anything intellectual and I'm not doing much physical. And so 2 things, that's when I thought, okay, physical, I just started going outside. Now I have a dog, so I walk her all the time anyway, but that's when I started really getting focused on walking barefoot. It became a real intentional practice. Intellectual, I don't know, within the first week, I could not do one more Zoom session without screaming. Okay. Now, what I did do then, intellectual, because love of learning is my top strength. It's how I operate in the world. So in those 3 months, even though it was on the computer, I decided, well, I'm going to focus on all my continuing ed credits. And I have all my continuing ed credits done for my national certification, my state license for the next 4 years. And so what it was nice is it gave me 2 hours a day where I was feeding my mind in a good way. Because being transparent, I was initially I've been way too addicted to the news. And you can only walk around for so many days with your hair like on fire because of the news. And every now and then I still have those moments where I need to tune in, because if I don't, I come to work and all my clients want to know what I think, or they want to tell me. So I like to at least stay on top of the headlines. But I had to get away from the news, or even there were a couple Zoom chats that I was in that I was like, I can't sit and just talk about this. But doing the continuing, it was really looking for what do I want to learn?
Beautiful. And one of my last questions is, of course, because we just have to end with that, because I've never met anybody that's done a book on dog massage. And I wanted to tell everybody, I just put something in the chat. I'm going to see if I can do it again. Have you heard of Zentangling? We're going to be, we are doing a free trial program with Zentangling on Friday in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's something that, it's a way of doodling that is, it's not even doodling because you make art, but there's gratitude that's part of it. There is, and it's Friday. I just put it in the chat. It's Friday, so I encourage everybody to try it. 11:30 to I think 1:45, and you don't focus on the results. You focus on the process, and you learn these tangles. And it's a very small. All you need is a piece of paper, a pencil, a pen, and a Q-tip or a Kleenex to smudge, and it's quite wonderful. So tell me just finally, because I know we're going a little bit over, but I have to hear about dog massage.
Well, I used to own Shiba Inus. Anybody familiar with them? They're Japanese dogs, and because I do massage. I mean, I've been doing massage since the 70s, so it just was a natural thing to do. And then a friend of mine who I was doing acupuncture and massage with, this is how it started. She asked me if I could help her with one of her dogs, and she has Great Pyrenees. And so I went over, and it was like after a few sessions, we went, why don't we teach? She went, why don't you teach this? So it started out doing workshops. And then the book it's called A Dog Lover's Guide to Canine Massage. And it became kind of the workbook that we used in our classes. And I teach it, there's a summer camp for people and their dogs called Camp Unleashed. And I actually go and I teach canine massage during those weekends. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think that self-care is the new healthcare, and maybe it always was. And all of the practices that you've been teaching us and mentioning do just that. They help us take care of ourselves as a way to both prevent and prevent illness and also fortify our health. Yeah.
And if anybody, you will get this handout, which has my website. If you feel like you have more questions, feel free to send me an email. Yeah.
And I know, Phoebe, you put some information in the chat. Would you like to let us know who's going to be coming this week and next?
Yes. So I put into the chat that on Thursday we have a guest who is speaking about positive relationships, and it will be learning the art and science of thriving relationships based in the art and science of positive psychology and positive psychology practices. So hope to see you Thursday. If you can't be here, sign up and you'll get the recording. And Linda, what a masterful masterclass in whole person well-being. You embody Spire, and you certainly gave us so much. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope it was helpful. Yes.
Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves, everyone, and we'll see you on Thursday. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.